Welcome to the painting zone. Hello there, welcome one and all. It's time to paint some rather grotesque, hideous creatures. There are some obvious jokes that jump out there, but instead I'm going to tell you what I'm actually painting. Little critters from Bad Squiddo Games. You can see them in their currently working on section, which is up there. And we've got all these fancy pants colours out. So, what are we going to do first? Let's move them out of the way now that you've had a good look at them. So, obviously some of them have to be orange. Have some yellows, greens in there, and pink. Not going to do too many pink or purpley colours because these guys are going to be perched on the bases when they're finished. So we don't want them to look too similar to that. We're not going to do any incredibly pale greens because I don't want them to look like these guys' hair too much either. And the actual bases themselves are going to be kind of a brown, earthy texture when they're finished. So it doesn't matter if I get some paint splattered onto the actual base itself. I did attempt to do one of these streams yesterday, but the internet soiled itself rather spectacularly, which resulted in you not seeing the beautiful dry brushing on these skulls and the white contrast paint on the spider egg sacs, which are looking quite juicy, succulent and ready to burst at the moment. Not the bones, obviously. Nothing succulent about them, unless you're a mutt, perhaps, who likes to get to the juicy centre. Who have we got here? We've got Bad Squiddo Games, we've got Neil, we've got Chilling Wargamers in the house, and we've got Graham, obviously. Okay, which colour shall we start with? I think let's go for a bit of yellow first of all. Nope, changed my mind already. I'm going to go for dark green because I've also got this goblin green here that I'm going to put on afterwards. So I would like this to be dry first because most of the others are just going to be washes. But with this I'm going to get a bit of highlighting on it. So let's do the dark green first. We have to decide which ones are going to be painted in green as well. So I think some of them that are left in black right now will be painted green because this dark green should show up fairly well on the black, I would hope. Chilling Wargamers. Please shave all your hair and keep the hair and become a wizard. What? How does that work? Keep the hair in a bag. How does that make me a wizard? Perhaps he meant keep the beard. Okay, we've splodged out some green. And we're going for a well-worn Citadel dry brush here. It's not got too fine a point on it, but it doesn't matter because they're not too tightly packed, these critters, and it doesn't matter if I get spillage onto the base. Wet palette, which is still wet, as you can see in the headlines at the bottom there, scrolling along. So, I don't want to do too many of the ones that look like spiders in a different colour. I want most of them to be black. But anything that's been left in black that isn't a spider is fair game as far as I'm concerned. Apparently it's the Virtual Games Expo this weekend. Remains to be seen how exciting that's going to be. It seems to me like the whole point of the Games Expo is so that you can either mingle with people or get up close and personal with the products that you've already seen on the internet, especially in this day and age. In the point of conventions in general, really, because you've seen everything online before you get there. Even things that you weren't meant to will have been leaked. So I'll be keeping one, maybe half an eyeball on that to see how it goes and how successful it is. Because initially it seems like something that wouldn't do very well to me. Let me know anyone if you're planning to be glued to it all weekend. So I've done two of the little critters in green on here. Sure it's not going to show up too well so far. It's quite dark. And onto this base. Let's see who wants to be green here. What about this big critter right there? They're so tiny, it's hard to tell exactly what something is when they're all just primed together like this. You can roughly tell which ones are spiders from the shape of them. I'm sure they're all based on actual insects and critters though. This one looks like maybe some kind of grasshopper, perhaps? Maybe I'm biased now because I've just started painting it green. But when it comes to Night Stalker bases, everything has been done by now, as far as I'm concerned. All the really creepy, weird stuff. I did have some ideas for some really outside-the-box thinking, but practically it didn't seem like it was going to work very well. Because I wanted to come up with something that would stand out from the hideous eyeball bases that I've seen out there, where it's like they're walking around on flesh, and there's succulent, juicy eyeballs all over the place. And I thought, there's no way I can out-weird that by doing something similar. I can't just make bases with noses poking out, because everyone knows eyeballs are the creepiest part of the face. I thought about trying to turn the bases into, like, mouths with big teeth, like all the monsters were emerging from a giant mouth. But I thought, you know what, that sounds like a lot of work, and it's not even going to outdo Eyeball Town. So why not just go completely the other way? Insects crawling out of holes, because there are people that's going to creep out even more than eyeballs. And then, after browsing Bad Squiddo Games, code available in the description to get a free resin chicken with every order, by the way. If you go right to the bottom of the video description, you'll find that. Having a browse through there, I saw the spider sacks, the insects. They have insect nests as well, and spider nests. And some of them are in bundle deals as well. Like there's a Spider-topia bundle, which is spider eggs and spider nests, I think. I've just gone for the eggs, since I'm just doing it for basing rather than a full terrain piece. So I just went for the smaller stuff. And then some skull piles as well, because why not? But all these little creatures, I imagine it's not going to take me too long to paint them all. It should look quite tasty at the end. Okay, there's a couple green on each one. Dan says evening. Hello there. I haven't done a video in this time slot for a fair old while, so we'll see how the old viewing figures do as well. Of course, if I really want lots of viewers, I should announce these videos days in advance. But I'm just going by when I feel like it, when it's cool enough for me to sit here under the light and do this painting, and when there's nothing else interesting going on. So I haven't checked if I'm clashing with anyone else's live show tonight. Although, there's so many out there, it's impossible not to clash, really. It's a very saturated market. You just have to stand out by having top-class overlays and cheeky scrolling text along the place. I've got 2 scrolling text bars. That puts me a step above anyone that just has 1. Okay, which colour shall we dive into next? Let's have a bit of orange. This is orange fire. So all these other colours I'm going to be applying over brown, and even some of them then might require another coat after that. Thinking the yellow might not like a single coat over brown. Giving it a jolly good shake. orange occasionally needs a second coat. We'll see whether that's the case over the brown here. So, which ones do we want to do in orange? Maybe this really long one here. Is anyone else working on anything spicy tonight? I haven't picked up the paintbrush too much in the last few months. In fact, the previous The Painting Zone video was the first time I'd painted anything in probably 2 or 3 months. Due to moving house, all kinds of upheaval going on. Relocating halfway across the country. Basically, turning one's life upside down. In a good way, though. It's always a risk, especially during these unprecedented times. A lot of turbulence in the world. Okay, there's a nice long orange one. We've got David in the chat. Hello there. Who else wants to be orange? Anyone? No, I think that big one's enough. Do some more on this base though. Do a couple orange on here, so they're smaller. Let's have this one. Graham is texturing the bases of 6 Knights of Dol Amroth, whatever that is. So, last time I was talking a bit about Dragon Strike, the board game, and upon Googling I found out something rather amazing, that there was actually a version of it with metal miniatures in, for the heroes, the main villain, and the dragon. And the sculpts were based on the characters in the VHS. And they were made by Rel Parther. And I found a copy of it on eBay, but it's just a little bit out of my price range, so I imagine it's quite rare. But that's the kind of thing that would inspire me to actually paint the miniatures for a board game, because they looked very nice. And based on something that's been very, I don't want to say influential in my life, but it's getting there. Something that I repeatedly exposed myself to in life, that being the Dragon Strike VHS. Anything based on that definitely has higher value to me than it would to someone else. But right now I'm not really in the market to be buying anything. Gotta be very careful with money at the moment, to avoid financial ruin. On that topic, by the way, all my fundraising links are in the description. I had to slide that one in there subtly. So we've got 2 orange critters on this one. rinse off the old brush. Dan says, do you play many board games? What are your top ones you play at the moment? Well, I don't play that many board games, but that was more down to the fact that there weren't enough people in a group near me at the time. So now that I've moved to Nottingham, where it's just endless wall-to-wall gaming wherever you look, you can't step out your front door without tripping over someone playing a board game or some kind of tabletop game, then I imagine when the pandemic has further subsided, then there's going to be quite a lot of sweet board game action, in addition to the miniature game action as well. However, I've still managed to play some Dreadball during all this online with Vassal, so I'm going for the pink now. So the Vassal Dreadball tournament was quite fun. The technical glitches were very annoying though, so I'm not sure whether I'd sign up for another one. But the games themselves were fine. And I think I finished 4th in the end. Won 3 games, lost 1. Okay, who wants to be pink? These fat little juicy fellas here can be pink. That guy. Right there. So among the several technical glitches that came up in the Vassal Dreadball tournament, I accidentally dragged the entire deck of cards into oblivion, and they never came back, and there was no way to generate a new deck that we could find, so we had to restart the entire game. But many occasions where it accidentally selected all my players instead of just one and started moving all of them, which was quite amusing. Let's have this one pink as well. If I took a trip to Melton Mowbray and had one of our world famous pork pies only down the road from Nottingham? No. I haven't really taken a trip anywhere yet, apart from the supermarkets. And I did get into Warhammer World as well, which was very quiet. There's only the shop open at the moment, not the bar and not the gaming area, as you can imagine. However, I would imagine over the coming months I will be venturing out more, gradually. I'm not sure about pork pies, but I am a fan of sausage rolls. Don't know specifically about pork pies though. In theory, a pork pie should be virtually the same as a sausage roll, but pies seem to more commonly have extra ingredients chucked in there that might mess with the delicate balance of the meat to pastry ratio that a sausage roll achieves perfectly. Lash says the pie would have a thicker crust. Yeah, I suppose it is a different kind of pastry, usually. But I think I'd just be disappointed that it wasn't a sausage roll. I like pies, but mainly sweet pies. Apple pie, as long as they don't put sultanas in it for some ungodly reason. Why would you put anything else in an apple pie? I can just about tolerate cinnamon being in an apple pie, but it seems to be in every single pie you see anywhere nowadays. Apple, anyway. Someone thought, hey, cinnamon goes quite reasonably with apple. Let's just put it in everything apple-themed ever. Could turn this into a cooking special. It was more of an eating program rather than a cooking, though. Talking about eating instead of actual eating. Okay. Anyone else want to be pink? Let's have that little fella just inside the crevice there, trying to crawl his way out. Okay, I think that's enough pink critters now. Marissa says, I got to get these bugs. They are very nice models, and you do get a lot of them for the price as well. If anyone is thinking about ordering these from Bad Squiddo, then don't forget code at the bottom of the video description. Input that code, and you get a free resin chicken with your order as well. Right, a few resin chickens have been dished out so far. There's no telling how long that promotion's going to last. And could you say no to a resin chicken? I don't think I've got a chicken to hand to show you what they look like, but you can see them on the Bad Squiddo website anyway. David, just levelling up Carillion on Vermintide 2. How many more missions on Vermi 1? One more mission, and that's it. So we're just waiting for Mr. Remington to be set up in his new house. And then we'll be able to finish the final mission, and then move on to Vermintide 2, which I have been playing a bit of in preparation, just levelling myself up a bit. And it's a lot of fun. Only on the basic difficulty, though. So I think the others that are in brown will now become yellow. Might take 2 coats of yellow even on the brown. Yellow is notorious for not covering well over dark colours. Even with an airbrush sometimes. Try and airbrush yellow over black, then it can come out green to my eye. At least not very yellow. So when I've finished this guy, let's just rinse off the brush, and I'll show you what the insects look like before you cut them out. Lash has seen people do yellow over pink for airbrush. Interesting. I'll take that on board. I normally go over just black or white for everything, pretty much. So here's some of the critters. Let's see where's the best spot for focus. I want to get a nice close-up. Let's see if I can thrust it right up there into the camera. There you go. There's your little critters. And it's best to leave them on this very thin bit of resin that they're stuck to, because then when you're painting or decorating the base, you're not going to completely swamp them, and they'll be poking out a little bit. And there's some more here. There you go. Look at that. Crunchy and spicy. So you get a lot in there. In fact, I can see on the screen you get 93 critters. So I've got a ton left for my other bases. And then I've also got more of these spider egg sacs, should I say. Yeah, look at that spider crawling on that bundle of eggs there. And there's another one. I feel like people can harvest my fingerprints from this stream and go and plant them at crime scenes. Thank you for having relatively clean nails when you do that. Yes, some people do have disgraceful nails, although when you're down there getting your hands dirty at the hobby table, it's tempting to not clean under there as often as you should when you're just caught up. That was a noise outside. And here's the other element to the bases. The skull piles. With a bit of rib cage thrown in as well for good measure. Just bones in general, they're not all skulls. Here's one with a bit of a torso on a stick, which is always a tasty snack. Lovely. So let's do the rest of the yellow. So I think I'm going to be doing these videos semi-regularly now. Now that I've got all set up in here for painting. Ideally, I'd like to have a camera dangling down above, so you can see what I'm doing regardless of which angle I'm holding the things at. But for now, I think this will do. I imagine people aren't staring at the screen the whole time anyway. And people are mostly listening and working on their own stuff until I specifically tell them, here's a thing you should look at. And then they look up. That's how I imagine things anyway. Next, got a couple to do in yellow on here as well. If you appreciate all the fancy overlays and graphics that have popped up on the channel recently, and the Andy and Rem Show logo, for example, and all the other fancy graphics, then somewhere in the middle of the video description you can find a link to Radbat Designs, and that's who is responsible for all of the fancy new graphics. So you should go and check out that page on Facebook. Okay, this one wants to be yellow as well. If you really want to go really to town, as they say, with the detail on these things, you can make them look very nice. In fact, if you look at the picture up there, you can see the level of detail that that particular painter has done for the official Bad Squiddo photos. And there's no reason you can't also do something similar. If you like painting with bold colours, then you can really go nuts with these things, since every single one theoretically can be a drastically different colour. And normally when you would read 93 creatures in there, you would think, oh well, lots of them will just be the same. But actually, no. There's quite a lot of different ones. I think, let's see, 93 in there. I think there may be 31 of each got 31 types and then 3 of each of those. Sounds right to me. Let's have a look. I'm not going to count them all. I'm just going to roughly see if that sounds correct. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about right. I don't think you get more than 3 of anything. So a lot of variety in there. Okay, what have we got left then? There's a few that are in black, but I'm going to leave some of them black, especially the spiders. But there's a few that don't look that spidery. They're kind of crabbish. Do I want to paint them a different colour? Do I want to go for a nice darker colour on them, perhaps? So there's not as many of them just in black? What else have I got to play with here, colour-wise? Let's see. Got some reds. Might do a couple of them in red, just to spice things up a bit. If I can find the red, because I'm sure there's a new one here somewhere. I've got all my dropper bottle paints in a nice standing paint rack over here. I've got gory red, which I could then highlight, I suppose. So let's use that. Lash says, I'm going to need to get some of Squiddo's Spidertopia stuff, the egg sac piles and such, for some Atlantic Games giant spiders that I've pre-ordered. Yes, that sounds like a perfect combo, actually. Any kind of spidery theme you've got going on, you can't go wrong with some spider eggs and spider nests. So, gory red. Who do we want in that colour on here? Let's have this one. It's a bit darker than your typical blood red, or whatever the current name of that colour is. I know people generally go by the Citadel colours. Even when they're not using them, they typically use the names of them when they're describing other paints. Do I want any more? I think that's enough variety. Just leave a couple of them to be black there. And this one, let's have a couple red here as well. And then leave 2 black. Because not all spiders have to be black, really, do they? So most of these aren't going to have too much more work done to them apart from washes, but the darker colours will get some more highlighting. I'm not going to spend an age on every single base. This is going to be quite a quick army to do when I get down to it. Obviously there's been a bit of a break, self-imposed break. So a couple of juicy, succulent red ones there. And that is how we're looking at the moment. So you can see a lot more colour in there. Steve in the chat. Flash says, spiders come with some entangled in web bits for base decoration. Frodo and Sam captured by Shelob style, but the eggs and some spiders from this book set should look nice on the base. Sounds good. All this bad Squiddo scenic stuff, you get a decent amount for the price, which I like. Especially the bugs, because they're so tiny, you can get a lot of them. Because often, when there have been insects in games, I've found that usually they kind of make them big, mutated ones because it's not feasible to make such tiny ones all the time. But nowadays, it seems like it's way more doable. So, good times all around, I think. I'm thinking back to the likes of Warhammer Quest when you got the spiders in there, but really they were big, gigantic, horrible things. I would have liked just some tiny spiders in there, and not just as a spider swarm, where they're kind of all piled on top of each other, which presumably is much easier to make than just individual critters. Okay, so finished the base coats on the insects now. The yellow seems to have covered decently. I might give it another coat still. So I'll leave this brush over here for now. MCO, what's a good source of woodland critters for Kings of War? Well, it depends specifically what kind of animals you're looking for, which sort of woodland critters. But I would definitely recommend, obviously, I'm using Bad Squiddo stuff here. Bad Squiddo have some very nice animals. If you go on the Bad Squiddo shop and go to the animal section, you can find all sorts of stuff. Let's see, what have they got? They've got bears, they've got rabbits. I feel like they've got beavers, all kinds of things. Dogs, wolves. You know what, I could just pull up the website and have a look for you now. Let's see. Let's see exactly which animals they've got. Bad Squiddo miniatures. Animals. So, bugs, chickens, pigeons, dogs, dinosaurs, pigs, guinea pigs, wolves, pony, tortoise, chameleons, lions, bears, ravens, fairies, if you consider them to be animals, other kinds of dogs, moose family, beavers, wildcats, mandrill, iguana, bunnies, kittens, hound, more bears, capybara, and guinea pigs. So yeah, if any of those appeal. And of course, if you're placing an order from there, don't forget the code found in this video description right at the bottom to get a free resin chicken with every order. Okay, so let's highlight the green now with this lighter green. So we started with creatively named dark green, and now equally creatively named goblin green, which is obviously the name of the old Citadel colour. Yeah, if there's any animals specifically that you're looking for that you can't find on there, there are other companies out there that do all the different kinds of animals as well. If there's a particular animal you had your heart set on. I'm going to get a slightly thinner brush now. This is going to be a bit of a highlight on the dark green in this much lighter green. So it's not going to be like a crazy edge highlight or anything, just on the raised parts. And tilt it a bit so you can see roughly what I'm doing. I don't need to go too nuts with this. And let's get it right up there so you can actually see properly. There you go. So pretty simple. But no one's going to be looking at this little critter that close up, really. So that should be fine for now. I'll let you know if I decide to do anything else with it. And then I think there's one more in green on here as well. MCO, are those bad squiddo bugs you're doing? Yes. In fact, you can see a picture of them up there. Very spicy indeed. Okay, next. This little fellow at the front is in green. Might try and do some kind of stripes here. See how that turns out. I'll show you in a second, because I don't think you can see very well from there. Do it with another stripe around the side there. Okay, that'll do for him. I think there's one more green on here. Yep. So really you could do all of them like this. Just start off with a dark colour and then a very simple highlight on them because they're so small. If you've seen anyone paint like 6mm infantry, often just very simple highlights will get it done. So let's give that brush a little bit of a soaping. Not too much. I'm going to be using it again in a minute. Don't need to go too nuts there. Let's go back to the Citadel detail brush because I'm going to do a second coat of the yellow now. Good thing about using a wet palette, the paint doesn't thicken up as much as it does on a drier surface. So I don't feel the need to thin it quite so much. Which is especially good for something like yellow, which is annoying to water down because it's already difficult to get the necessary coverage without accidentally over diluting it. Are you going live every week? What's the schedule? Same times, etc. Oh, there's a fly in here. And it's disappeared. So, possibly, I should really, for the sake of ratings, for the sake of people actually tuning in and adding it to their routine, knowing when I'm going to be broadcasting. So I might trial a bit of a schedule of maybe twice a week doing this, and pick the best times that I'm always available. So I'll get a lot more painting done, and really, if I only do about an hour at a time, we're on 45 minutes now, if I do about an hour each time, it's not taking up that much of my free time, really, is it? It only takes me 10 minutes or so to get everything else set up, get the cameras in the right place and whatnot. Rinsing off the old brush. Okay, what do we want to do next? I might get this brush out because I don't want this to stray onto other things, and then paint all the little spiders black, including the ones that are crawling on the egg sacs. So I don't want them, their colour to accidentally contaminate the eggs. So we've got the creatively named black right here. And then I'm going to highlight them, probably with a very light, gentle dry brushing of grey. You can also see I've got all my Necromunda stuff just perched, barely in shot, waiting for me to finish the Night Stalker bases so I can move on to them. These are my mustache grinders, which are basically corpse grinders with space wolf heads. And then I've also made some ladies for that group as well, by using Escher bodies. Go on, you want to focus on this. There you go, corpse grinder heads, corpse grinder weapons, stuck onto the Escher hands, because there weren't any women in there, and I thought, I've got to have at least 2. So let's paint some spidlings. A spider actually landed on me in the shower today. That spider is no longer with us. So hopefully this week there'll be the final episode, hopefully, of Vermintide as well. We've only got one mission left to do, so hopefully we'll be able to do that over the course of one episode. Unless it's anything like the episode we had recently, or the 3 or 4 episodes back to back when we were trying and failing to do the same mission over and over. So it was a very difficult one. But we did it in the end, so we've only got one mission left. So as soon as that's over, Vermintide 2 is coming. And again, I think we'll try and do all those missions on hard difficulty as well. I wonder which character Mr. Remington uses in Vermintide 2. I'm obviously still the Witch Hunter. Mainly so I can just do impressions of everything he says. the one phrase that I really like from him that he uses at the moment, the one that I like to say the most right now, is probably explosive devices. Just the way he says it. Okay, there's a nice creepy spider on the back of the eggs, crawling around, having a jolly old time. Anyone else need touching up with black? I think this guy's got a bit of pink on the back there that's strayed. This one seems to be okay. And over here. David is on veteran at the moment, which I think is the equivalent. Oh, I haven't played around with the difficulty too much on Vermintide 2. I've only been playing on the lowest, just getting a feel for it, levelling up. It does feel quite different, the game. The special moves make a difference. The changing the class of your character, kind of splintering out into different paths, is interesting. And it somehow feels more satisfying, chopping things. There seems to be a higher prevalence of limbs and torsos being chopped in half as well, which I'm a fan of, especially since I've been using a broadsword. So generally, anything that you hit with a power attack, if you hit them in the torso, they're getting chopped in half. Another spider crawling on an egg sac here. Very good attention to detail on these things. Certain things you don't spot until you start painting them, usually, with these Bad Squiddo scenics. It'd be nice if I could get through the entire set of spiders here without spilling any paint on the sack. I'd be very impressed with myself if I can pull that one off. Oh yeah, we were supposed to be starting Space Hulk Deathwing as well at some point. So I'm sure we will eventually. Okay, just going to give a little touch up on any of these that might need it. And I think we're good. Wayne says, "Hi ho, Orange Jesus, what are you painting, Thy Holiness?" Well, I am painting those up there. Bad Squiddo bugs, which I've decorated my Night Stalker bases with. So let's have some nice close-ups to see where we're up to with these. There you go, so you can see all the little critters. There's going to be washes and highlights to come in varying degrees. They're crawling out of holes in the ground to look extra creepy. And there's some nice spider egg sacs all over the place as well. And some bones. And this one. There you go. You can pretty much see what's going on there. Same thing, and more bones. So when they're finished, these guys are going to be standing on them. So let's give you a preview of how that's going to look. So I can't remember which one goes on which base actually. I think it's this one here. Yeah. So it's going to look kind of like that. So very creepy. Insects crawling out. And the other one, this one's going to have the insects at the front. So there's that one. Where's the best spot to focus for him? Very grisly. There he is. So you've got a good idea how they're going to look when they're finished. If you're wondering what these models are, by the way, then these are Mantic Hellboy frog monster legs and the Mantic giant heads attached on top, with a bit of green stuffing to blend the two pieces together. So they're going to be my Night Stalker Dread Fiends, and they are made entirely from Mantic bits as well, which is nice. Not the bases, of course, which are Bad Squiddo. David says there's a new Fat Shark game coming out, or 40k, can't remember what it's called. Yes. Is it Dark Tide, that one? Imperial Guard against all kinds of horrible stuff. It does look good. Looks like Vermintide with more guns, pretty much. Which I would appreciate, being a big fan of Left 4 Dead, which is obviously the archetypal game in that genre, where you have 4 of you surviving against massed hordes in a first-person perspective. Played a lot of Left 4 Dead. I think between Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 I've got something like 2,300 hours, which is a lot. Vermintide 1 I'm on about 50 hours, I think. Wayne thinks it's an Xbox exclusive. There's no such thing as an exclusive nowadays. If it is an Xbox exclusive, I'm sure it'll be out on PC at some point. That's usually how it works. So, what shall we do next? I think these colours are dry, so I might apply some washes. It's not going to be on too much longer now. It's nearly up to 1 hour. So it means you don't have to sit around watching them dry. I can just do it and then end the stream. It's nice that this stream didn't give up halfway through due to internet issues like the last one I tried. So let's put this brush away. And washes. So we want a wash for the orange, a wash for the yellow, a wash for the pink. So which ones do we want? There's a hair stuck under there. Let's see. Got all my washes in this here box. At some point I'll highlight the red as well, but I'm just going to do the washes for tonight. Could use Reclin Flesh Shade. That's always a good option. Got some contrast paints that can be used as washes. I got one specifically for orange in here. You would think so, wouldn't you? What have we got on here? Nuln Oil, Druchii Violet, or Druchii Violet, and Agrax Earthshade on there. Got more Agrax Earthshade. Got Beal Tan Green. Anything lurking over there? No, I think Reclin Flesh Shade is going to be alright for most of those. I know I've got Cassandora Yellow somewhere. So, is it in here, is the question. So I know for a fact that I have it. Unless it was somehow left behind when I moved, which seems unlikely. That would be kind of recklessness you don't associate with me. I've got Contrast Gryph-hound Orange, which I could put over the orange. See how that goes. In theory, it should just darken and even more orangify the crevices, so I might give that a go. But I'm going to be cheesed off if I can't find that yellow, because I know I own it. There we go. Cassandora Yellow. So I think we're well stocked in washes now. However, I am going to put them in the Citadel paint holder so they don't spill. So I'll take these three suckers out. Can house 3 paints at a time. And I would recommend either building something that does the same job or just buying this one if you can't be bothered. It won't completely remove chance of spillage, because there's always a possibility that you could do the ultimate swipe with your arm when you're not looking and just clear everything off the desk, but it should minimise any chances. Wayne says, are you locked down in Oldham? I'm not in Oldham anymore, I'm now in Nottingham, which is why there haven't been any painting videos for a while, because I was settling in here. Graham Rig, creepy, crawly, slimy things that stick onto your skin. Something, something, tentacles that want to pull you in. I don't know the rest of the words. Everyone is a big fan of Trapdoor, surely, though. Let's start with the yellow. Could start doing my Trapdoor impressions. I don't know if they're very good. I think for Burke, I can pretty much just say, hello. I think that's a decent impression of him. And then Boney. He's fun to impersonate. He's got a very silly voice. I like the one where his head is like transplanted onto a horse skeleton. And he says something along the lines of, Burke, I've got a body. Good old Boney. I would like to have a Boney, actually, to put on a shelf. And his other quality line, I'm pretty sure it was another monster, or maybe Drut, was in his little crevice in the fireplace, or wherever he is. And he was telling him to leave and saying, it's my hole, it's my hole. Classic. I'm not going to do an impression of the thing upstairs because that would destroy my throat attempting it. Who else had a speaking part on Trapdoor? Rog, he spoke. Not sure if I can do his voice though. feel like Trapdoor gets referenced roughly once a month on this channel somehow. Okay, let's do the orange ones. Squirmy worms, slugs and snails that lie there in the goo. They'll stay down there forever till they get their hands on you, something like that. Bad Squiddo, just popping by. Well, you can see what a magnificent job I'm doing on your fine products here. These lovely little Bad Squiddo Scenics bugs and spider eggs. Look at that. Lovely and gribbly. Okay, there's the orange. Uh-oh, looks like Wayne's starstruck. Even more so than usual, for some reason, even though you're watching this channel, and I'm pretty much the ultimate wargaming celebrity. Okay, Reclin Flesh Shade for the pink, which should tone it down a little bit so it doesn't look quite so outrageous and not quite neon like it is at the moment. So here we go. If these little critters came to life, live on the broadcast, then I would accept it because it would probably allow me to go viral. I wouldn't complain at all. The worst would be if they came to life just after I go off the air, so no one sees it and I still get these horrible, creepy little abominations chasing me. Okay, there's the washes. Yes, if they did come to life, I would electrocute them, because that's what I do. I've got the ultimate insect and fly zapper. Anything that makes it into this room does not survive much longer. Unless it's really good at hiding, in which case I'll allow it to live, because I'm not going to go moving furniture to chase after things. If it comes out in the open, it's toast. I've also put up a stylish net on the window as well, so anything that's large and annoying, like bees or wasps or moths, things like that, can no longer get in here unless I leave the door open and they've come in via another room, which I have no control over. So I just have to keep the door closed most of the time. Wayne isn't going to call me young Andrew anymore with all that white in your beard. They're called wisdom hairs. Every time you learn something new, one of them turns white. So you can tell I'm gaining wisdom on a daily basis. Annie says the beard reminds me of Goat's beard. Yeah, if anyone doesn't know who Goat is, then you probably don't want to know. But it is a music entity, shall we say. And his beard has a lot of white in it as well, so he's obviously got a lot of wisdom. So, check all these lids are securely closed, which they are. Push that off to the side. And then we'll have one final look, see how they're looking for tonight. There's all the critters as they are now. A bit more highlighting to do on some of them, but that'll come later. Same for these ones. I think you'll agree they're looking quite tasty. In fact, that contrast orange over the regular orange is looking the best so far, I think. Hopefully it looks that way when it's fully dry as well, because I really like that. Then, when these guys are all finished and we've stuck the dudes on, and put some texture paint for the earth, and maybe stuck a few tufts on there, if you're lucky, then it'll be time for Necromunda and the mustache grinders. Where's the optimal focus spot for him? Trying to block off everything that's trying to steal the focus here. Oh, there you go. Corpse grinders, Space Wolf heads. They're going to be next on the block when these Night Stalker bases are done. And then we've also got, of course, this big beastie, the Shadow Hulk, which I'll show to this camera instead because it's so huge. I mean, look at that. It's like the size of my head, almost. It is a mighty converted monstrosity from the Mantic Giant, with lots of other Mantic bits on there, including the tentacles, which are from Hellboy models. Lots of faces all over it, some of them from Mantic, some of them from other ranges, where I've just taken an imprint of something's face and then pressed it in. So all kinds of hideous faces on it, all kinds of gribbly bits. That'll be shortly, probably straight after the Necromunda stuff's done. I'll be finishing this guy, or maybe at the same time. I like having multiple projects on the go at once, so not long to wait for him. Wayne says, how did you end up in the East Midlands? Well, I packed up all my things into a vehicle, and then that vehicle brought me here, and then unloaded them at the other end, where my belongings were placed into a new abode. So I went from keeping my things in an entire house to keeping them in pretty much a single room, which was difficult, but I don't know if you can see behind me. There's a very large shelving unit in that corner back there that now houses like 80% of all my stuff, which is all my armies, all my terrain, everything pretty much. So I think it's time to wrap this one up. 1 hour 13 minutes. We'll call that a spicy one for tonight. And before I go, let's just show you. There, you can look at that beautiful sight while I'm giving you the end of show rundown. So don't forget to check out all the links in the description, including the Bad Squiddo code to get a free chicken with your order. And don't forget all the various fundraising sources down there. And in fact, I'm going to thank my patrons now who have reached a certain point in their pledging where they now get thanked. So I think, let's see who's worthy this month. Yeah, so anyone at the $5 or above level gets personally thanked at the end of each video, which I think you'll find is quite a snazzy reward. So, personal thanks before we leave go to Graham, Steve, Kim, Eric, Brad, Barbara, and Guy. All those people, thanks very much. Not quite in a position to afford a luxury yacht to sail off around the world yet, but with a few more patrons, you never know. So get clicking down there. Also, there's merch for the channel now. Redbubble links in the description. Don't forget to check that out. Join my Facebook group. Join the Andy and Rem Show Discord server as well. That's a hub of just non-stop activity. And with that, I think all that remains to be said is good night out there, whatever you are.